Have you ever walked into your kitchen and realized you can't smell the coffee brewing like you used to? Or sat down to a warm bowl of soup and found it oddly flat? Not bad, not spoiled, just missing something. That familiar aroma that used to greet you is suddenly gone. Maybe you've shrugged it off, thinking, oh well, that's just part of getting older. But what if your nose was trying to tell you something more? You see, a change in your sense of smell isn't just about missing the scent of roses or your favorite meal. For people over 60, it can be one of the earliest clues that something deeper is happening in the body. The nose, often overlooked, might be one of your body's most sensitive messengers. That's why today we're having this important conversation. Because while losing your sense of smell can feel small, maybe even a little funny, it could be your body's way of whispering that something bigger is going on. And if we know how to listen, we might just catch that whisper before it turns into a shout. Let's begin with something most people don't realize. Your sense of smell isn't just about enjoyment, it's a built-in safety system. It warns you when food has gone bad. It alerts you to gas leaks, smoke, spoiled milk, or a burning stove. It even plays a role in helping you taste food fully. When your sense of smell starts to fade, your world becomes a little duller, but also a little more dangerous. I once met a man named George, who was 74. He'd been heating up some soup on the stove and walked into the other room. The pot boiled over and burned, filling the kitchen with smoke. He didn't smell a thing. It wasn't until his daughter stopped by and opened the door that anyone noticed the problem. He wasn't hurt, but the incident shook him. He'd never thought his nose could let him down like that. And here's the truth, George isn't alone. As we age, it's natural for some of the nerve endings in the nose to weaken. The tissues lining the nasal passages thin out. The signals between your nose and brain don't travel as quickly or clearly. But here's where it gets more serious. Sometimes that fading isn't just from age, it's from something happening in the brain itself. In fact, researchers now know that loss of smell can be one of the earliest warning signs of cognitive decline. In some cases, people who lose their sense of smell, not due to a cold or allergies, but gradually, without explanation, may be at higher risk for developing conditions like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's disease. I know that sounds scary. But I want to be clear, losing your sense of smell doesn't guarantee those outcomes. What it means is this: your nose is connected to your brain more closely than you might think. And changes in smell can reflect changes in brain function. That's why paying attention now matters. Let me tell you about Ellie. She was 68 when she first noticed that she couldn't smell her morning toast. She thought it was just seasonal allergies. But then it continued. She couldn't smell her shampoo, her perfume, even garlic while cooking. Her doctor ran some tests and, thankfully, ruled out anything urgent. But he also started her on memory exercises early, just in case. Years later, she told me she felt grateful, not because she got a diagnosis, but because she felt prepared. Her loss of smell prompted her to check in with her brain health, and that made all the difference. Now, that brings me to another point. Loss of smell can also be linked to things we can do something about. Things like untreated sinus infections, nasal polyps, vitamin deficiencies, especially B12 and zinc, and even the lingering effects of respiratory infections like the flu or COVID-19. If your sense of smell changed suddenly after being sick, that might be a clue. Some people lose smell after a cold or viral illness and it never fully returns. Others experience what's called phantom smells, where things smell different or distorted. If that sounds familiar, don't just live with it, talk to your doctor. There may be treatments that can help restore some of your scent sensitivity. And catching these clues early might reveal other issues before they become serious. And here's something that often surprises people: your sense of smell affects your appetite. When you can't smell food, it stops being exciting. You eat less. You may lose weight unintentionally. Or worse, you might stop caring about food altogether. And for seniors, that can lead to poor nutrition, weakness, even depression. A woman I spoke with recently, Maria, 71, told me she stopped enjoying meals after her sense of smell faded. I eat because I have to, she said. But there's no joy in it anymore. We talked about ways to bring that joy back, not just by chasing flavor, but by treating meals as sensory experiences. Using texture, color, temperature, even sound, to create connection when scent is missing. That's the bigger truth here. Even if your sense of smell isn't what it used to be, you can still live fully. You can adapt. You can protect your health. You can catch the warning signs before they turn into something worse. But it starts with paying attention. So if you found yourself thinking, why doesn't this meal smell like it used to? Or why does my soap have no scent? Don't ignore it. That small change might be more important than you think. Now, maybe you're sitting there thinking, okay, I've noticed some of that. My coffee doesn't smell as rich. My favorite meals don't excite me anymore. But what can I really do about it? And that's a great question, because while we may not be able to fully reverse the clock, we can understand what's happening and start working with our bodies instead of feeling frustrated by the changes. Let's talk about one of the most overlooked causes of reduced smell: nasal inflammation and congestion. It doesn't always show up the way we expect. Sometimes there's no runny nose, no stuffiness, just a slow, steady dulling of scent. But your nasal passages might still be inflamed, especially if you have a history of allergies, sinus infections, or even just dry indoor air from heaters or air conditioning. Your nose is full of tiny receptors that detect scent molecules and send those signals straight to your brain. When your nose is dry, irritated, or swollen, those signals get interrupted. Think of it like static on an old radio. You might still pick up parts of the message, but it's muffled, unclear, and easy to miss entirely. The good news? Small lifestyle changes can make a surprising difference. Staying hydrated helps keep your nasal passages moist. Using a humidifier in your bedroom at night can prevent dryness. Saline nasal sprays are gentle and often recommended by doctors to keep things clean and moist without side effects. But here's something even more powerful: smell training. Yes, smell training is a real thing. And more importantly, it works. It's often used by people recovering their sense of smell after viral infections or neurological issues, and it's surprisingly simple. You take 4 familiar scents, like lemon, rose, clove, and eucalyptus, and smell each one for about 15 to 20 seconds, twice a day. That's it. It's like gentle physical therapy for your nose. Why does it work? Because the brain is remarkably adaptable. Even in older age, it can form new connections. Repeated exposure to specific scents can help wake up your scent recognition pathways. It's not instant, but over weeks or months, many people report stronger, clearer smells returning. I spoke with a gentleman named Henry, he's 76, who tried smell training after losing his scent following a bad flu. At first, he said, everything smelled like cardboard. But after 6 weeks of daily practice, he said he could suddenly pick up the scent of his soap again. I'd never been so happy to smell lavender, he laughed. And that's the thing, small improvements feel big when you've gone without. But let's go deeper, because for many people, the hardest part of losing smell isn't the health risks or the bland food. It's the way it disconnects them from life. Think about it. Smell is memory. It's emotional. The scent of your mother's perfume. The grass after rain. Holiday meals in the oven. A newborn's skin. These aren't just pleasant moments, they're part of your identity. Your history. Your sense of place in the world. So when that sense fades, it can feel like losing a piece of yourself. That's why I encourage people to get creative, not just about recovering smell, but about reconnecting in other ways. If meals feel bland, try adding more textures, a little crunch, something creamy, something warm and soft. Let your tongue do what the nose can't. Add visual appeal, colorful ingredients, fresh herbs, vibrant sauces. Engage your eyes as much as your taste buds. And if scent is important to your emotional comfort, like the smell of a candle or a beloved lotion, choose stronger, simpler scents that are easier to detect. Citrus, mint, cinnamon, lavender. Even if you can't smell them like you used to, the ritual of using them can still bring peace and joy. And above all, talk about it. Don't go through this change quietly. If you've lost your sense of smell, tell your doctor. Ask for an evaluation. They may check for nasal issues, infections, neurological signs, or even vitamin deficiencies. Getting help doesn't mean something is wrong, it means you're taking care of yourself. Let me tell you about Marlene, a soft-spoken woman in her early 70s. She lost her sense of smell gradually and didn't think much of it. I figured it was just age, she told me. But when her doctor asked a few more questions, they discovered she had low vitamin B12 levels. A simple supplement, just 1 pill a day, helped improve her nerve function and slowly brought her scent back over time. Not every case is like that. But it's worth checking. Sometimes, your body is just waiting for the right support. Because here's the truth, your senses may change, but your life doesn't have to shrink with them. You can still enjoy meals, memories, music, conversation, connection, even if the scents around you aren't quite as loud as they once were. You may need to get a little creative. You may need to try something new. You may even find joy in places you hadn't noticed before. But that's what aging is, in a way. It's learning to dance differently with the same old song. Finding rhythm in change. Grace in adaptation. And wonder in the senses you do still have. Let's pause here for a moment and take a breath. If you've been listening and thinking, wow, that's me, I want to tell you something important. You're not broken. You're not fading. And you're certainly not alone. Losing your sense of smell, or noticing that it's just not what it used to be, can feel like something slipping through your fingers. But this change doesn't mean you've lost your vitality. It just means it's time to pay attention to what your body might be telling you. Let's talk now about the emotional side of this, because it's not just physical. When you can't smell your favorite meal, or flowers in spring, or that warm scent of laundry fresh from the dryer, it can bring a surprising sadness. You may feel disconnected from everyday joys, even a little isolated. I've spoken with many older adults who told me they didn't feel present anymore. The world feels muted, one woman said. Like I'm here, but not fully here. That feeling isn't silly or small. It matters. And that's why I always say, don't ignore these changes. Don't brush them off as just getting older. Because even if some loss is natural, that doesn't mean you should settle for silence in a world meant to be full of color, sound, flavor, and yes, scent. There's also another reason this matters more than people realize. Our sense of smell plays a key role in safety. And I can't stress this enough. If your nose can't warn you about a gas leak, spoiled food, or smoke, it puts you at risk, even in your own home. So here are a few simple, life-protecting steps you can take right now, even if your sense of smell isn't as sharp. Start by checking your smoke and gas detectors regularly. If they're battery-powered, change the batteries every 6 months. If they're wired in, test them monthly. These devices are your backup when your nose can't do the job. Next, be cautious with food storage. If you're unsure whether something is spoiled, don't rely on smell alone. Look for expiration dates, texture changes, and always trust your instincts. When in doubt, throw it out. Also, tell your loved ones or caregivers. If you've noticed the loss of smell, let someone know. That way, they can help keep an eye on things, check your fridge, help with meal prep, or even just be more aware when you're cooking. And don't forget that your sense of smell can sometimes come back, especially if the cause is something temporary like an infection, medication side effect, or vitamin deficiency. Sometimes all it takes is attention and care. Now let's talk about hope. Because there's always hope, at any age. Even if your nose never works the way it once did, you can still find ways to feel more connected to life. You can train your other senses to fill the gap. You can cook with more texture, color, and contrast. You can spend time in nature, focus on the sound of birds, the feeling of the breeze, the warmth of the sun. You can light a candle, not to smell it, but to watch it flicker and feel its glow. There is still beauty around you, One of the most inspiring people I ever met was a man named Robert. He'd lost his sense of smell completely in his 60s after a head injury. At first, he was devastated. "I miss the smell of my wife's hair more than anything," he told me. But over time, he adapted. He became more intentional about every other sense. He learned to paint, something he'd never done before. He started writing. He said that even though he couldn't smell anymore, he felt more alive than he had in years. His story reminds me that life isn't defined by what we lose, it's defined by how we grow around it. So if you've noticed changes in your smell after 60, here's what I want you to do. Don't panic, but don't ignore it. Don't isolate, but don't push through it alone. Get curious. Ask questions. Talk to your doctor. Keep a journal if needed. And most of all, be gentle with yourself. Aging is a journey, and sometimes our body speaks to us in small, quiet ways. Listen to those whispers. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you experienced a change in your sense of smell? Has it affected how you eat, how you feel, or how you connect to the world? Drop a comment below and share your story. You'd be surprised how many people are going through the same thing, and your words might help someone feel seen. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe. This channel is all about honest, heart-centered conversations about life after 60, health, purpose, and the little things that make a big difference. Because you deserve to live fully. With joy. With dignity. And with all the richness your senses can still offer you, no matter how they shift and change. Here's to your health, to your nose, and to everything it still knows, sometimes even when you don't. You're not losing yourself. You're just learning a new way to stay connected. And I'll be right here with you, every step of the way.